Hello, welcome back to this week's episode of Closed by Mo. My name is Mohammed. I'm hopefully your favorite YouTube host on most things real estate. I'm also a real estate investor and a realtor based out of New York City. In this week's episode, we're actually going to take a little bit of a different turn than what we've done in all the other videos in terms of dispensing advice or any kind of tips for investing. Today, we're going to talk more about some of the biggest real estate scams, what they are, how to recognize them, as well as, of course, how to avoid them. So without further ado, let's jump into some of the most common real estate scams out there. Now, real estate, just like any other industry, has its fair share of good apples and bad apples, and unfortunately, in real estate, it definitely tends to attract a lot of bad apples because it's so fragmented, right? It's not like, when you go buy a house, it's not as if you're going into a store and you scan a barcode. It's not as simple as that. So because it's so sort of inefficient, there's a lot of different ways that scammers are able to, break into that entire process and get as much value as possible legally without the person that's getting scammed from realizing until it's too late. Now, case in point, the very first and probably the most common type of scam in real estate that I've seen, especially in New York City, is a rental listing scam, right? Pretty straightforward. Exactly what happens is someone will post a picture of rentals that are available, whether they'll post it publicly or maybe in like a Facebook group or Craigslist or things like that. They might post a lot of nice pictures and it might almost seem too good to be true. Almost all the time it is too good to be true, because if you're seeing like a rental that's in a very nice area with some very nice pictures and the rent that's advertised is like a lot less than what the market rent is, you should have like a red flag or a siren going off in your head, because typically what will end up happening is in those rental listing scams, whoever's advertising will ask for a deposit up front or some kind of a fee up front. They might even call it like a deposit, a security deposit, or a broker's fee, even though they're not a broker or the landlord. They'll take your money and then you'll never hear from them again. It happens quite a lot in New York City, and I advise all my clients, whether if you're using me as your broker to find you an apartment or going off and finding something by yourself, always make sure you verify the person on the other side information. If they're a licensed realtor, you should be able to get their New York State real estate license identification card, or you can also simply do a quick Google search and find out whether or not they're actually licensed in the state itself to practice real estate. The second kind of real estate scam is what we call foreclosure scam. This might not be as super common, but basically the way it would work is scammers would find out people that are in distressed situations, whether they've lost their jobs or they're behind on their taxes or whatever it is, and they're almost facing foreclosure or they're in pre-foreclosure. What they would do is they try and approach these homeowners and say, hey, we're going to help your situation, we're going to completely save everything, you're going to be able to keep your home, basically over-promising and then not even under-delivering, just taking their money and running away. And the way they would work is they'd say, hey, you can pay us a fee and we'd stop your house from going into foreclosure, or why don't you sign over the title to us and then we'll able to prevent it, the bank from taking your home and you can still live in the house. These should be automatic red flags. Big red sirens should be going off in your head if anyone is ever asking you to sign over title of your property to them directly in order to help you get out of a sticky situation. Never ever do that. Definitely speak with your attorney, speak with your bank as well, or maybe even find a licensed broker and ask their advice too, just to figure out what's going on. And that leads me to my third scam in real estate, which is what we call title fraud. Title fraud is when most of the time scammers will steal a homeowner's identity and then basically do whatever they want with the title. They'll be able to gain control of the property. They might even try and sell it. They might even try and flip the house to other people as well who also might not be aware, because they know that the scammer is technically the homeowner because that's the person's name that's on the title, but the homeowner has no idea what's happening because their information was floating on the dark web. The scammer was able to get that information and then get their property title under his or her own name. The fourth type of real estate scam that I've seen, and it's abundant anywhere regardless of what market you're in, investment seminars and training scams. I tell people this all the time because I get asked this question about hey, how should I get into real estate? Where can I learn more information? Almost 100% of the information is available publicly, right? It's a Google search, or it's an investor meetup away, or it's you can go and you try reaching out to people directly, investors or other people that are active in the real estate space in your market. You don't have to pay for a training session or any kind of get rich quick scheme. If there's any kind of real estate scheme or any kind of event that's promising you to get very high returns in a very quick period of time, that should automatically be a red flag. There's no such thing as easy money in real estate, and there's no such thing as free money, right? You have to be able to work for that money or the profits. So if you're investing in a training seminar or any kind of conference where they're promising you free money, that should be an immediate red flag, right? The fifth kind of real estate scam is what we call wire fraud. If you've ever been involved in any kind of real estate transaction and you've been CC'd in any kind of email thread with the real estate attorneys, you'll know at the end of every email in their signature, they advise you to be aware of any kind of wire fraud. This happens more often than you think. Basically, if someone's under contract in a property and scammers are able to get that information, they might send a cold email saying, hey, we're your attorney, we need you to wire X number of funds to this other account that's going to be somewhere offshore, basically. And once the buyer is able to do that, then the scammers are no more. They've taken the money and they've run away, right? So what you should do is, if you ever get an email, from anyone asking you to wire funds, always make sure you call your attorneys. Make sure you verify the amount, the account numbers, the routing numbers, things like that, because you want to be 100% certain that the person that you're sending the wire to on the other side is actually licensed and is actually requesting you to get that information, get the wire funds transferred to them in the first place. Whether it's escrow or closing or whatever it is, you always want to be on the safe side. The sixth kind of real estate scams, what we call phantom listings, right? Almost self-explanatory, but a phantom listing, is basically when, someone doesn't actually own the property itself, or maybe the property doesn't even exist at all. They'll post listings about it. They'll post on Facebook, Zillow, wherever they can get their hands on, they're able to. They'll post that this property is for sale and that it might be at a really good price, or it might be at in the middle of nowhere and it's like a vacant land, whatever it is. The overlying theme is that it's for a price that's very good and reasonable, maybe even too good to be true. And what they're trying to do is, to unsuspecting buyers, are trying to get them to send them any kind of money to secure the property or tie it up or put it in under contract, even though they don't own that property. They have absolutely no control over that property itself. They're basically advertising that listing as their own, and they're trying to see if they can get a buyer to send them any kind of money. Those are the 6 most common type of real estate scams. I hope you were able to learn something from this video, because I definitely did while I was doing the research into this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next week.